one thing I forgot to mention, there is also a plastic sleeve inside here. So what happens is the firing pin goes in here, and the firing pin is worked back and forth where you have plastic on plastic instead of plastic on metal. So that was also a nice touch what they did. Typically the plastic sleeves in here do not come out. They're very hard. On some models they can, but I never had a Shield plastic sleeve come out though. But anyways, I wanted to point that out as well. So I love the fact that they took the time to make that sleeve. And by the way, this plastic is almost like some kind of Teflon. It's very thick. And I'm assuming the same thing, the sleeve inside is probably Teflon, very slick. So I like the fact that they did that. A lot of thought into this firearm. So now let's take a look at the firing pin block and safety. I like the fact that they took the time to polish it. I hardly see any machining marks in it when it was made. But I also love the fact that they put a dome right here. Normally, and again, this is the performance, this is the non-performance. Normally it would just be a taper right here and then a flat. Let's see if you can see that better. Yep, right there. See the taper and then it's flat. When you put a dome on it like this, the transition when the firing pin block and safety, when the firing pin block and safety is being pushed by that trigger bar hump right here, it gives you a much better, smoother trigger pull. So I really like that. I also love the fact that they put a piece of plastic on one end and then on the other it goes into the firing pin block and safety. Reason why is in order for you to take this out, you have to drift the sight out. And of course to reinstall it, put it in, you got to push this down and then you reinstall the sight. Well, a lot of times what happens in the manufacturing process, the worker has got to crank out like 50 of these, and then what can happen if you don't have this plastic piece, you can kink or even bend that spring. So I like that. It was a nice touch that they did. Then lastly we have the firing pin lock. I like the fact that they put a steel insert, so that way again you can have steel on steel instead of steel on plastic. And that's all this guy does. It helps retain, or it does retain, the firing pin. And you can see that it's definitely steel. And it goes all the way through. Now let's move on to the frame. I want to talk about the frame itself first. Typical, it's plastic, but it's got a hidden gem in it. See this metal insert right here? Well, this metal insert, it runs all the way around. Not only is it right here to stop it, to stop the slide, so when it runs back, it hits that and bottoms out, and then you have felt recoil. But that metal insert it's not just right here. It's all the way around the frame. And I love that. So you can see it right here. Metal, metal there, metal there, there. Like I said, it's all the way around. So when they casted this, they casted it with a metal insert. And you can see right here, no metal. But right here, that's when it starts. So I love that. Again, a lot of thought was put into this. A lot of thought. I do want to talk about this a little bit more. You can see how nice and robust this is. It's thick. Definitely thicker here than it is all the way around on the walls. But they did that on purpose because, again, this is where the slide bottoms out. So again, I like that. Gives the firearm rigidity, strength. Let's go to the trigger and trigger bar. So I already told you what I thought about the actual trigger itself. Don't particularly care for how rounded it is, and I don't care for how the bottom piece is the entire block. I prefer if they just had like a tab that's in the middle. It's typical of other firearms. The trigger bar I like. Nice and shiny. They definitely have polished it. They took their time, or some kind of coating on it, so it makes it very nice and slick and gives you a good trigger pull. The only thing I don't like, this is basically a sheet metal stamping, and then what they did is took this and bend it around, making the part where the sear touches in this tail. I just don't know how well this will hold up. I know that I've tested the safety and I gave it a pretty nice squeeze when the safety was on and it didn't give out. So, but still, I just feel like they could have done it something, or give it some more mass so that way it had more rigidity. Because it's possible that it can bend or break about right here. But again, this firearm has probably got, I would say, maybe 2,000-3,000 rounds, because I personally know my customer. And that's about what he's got into it, give or take. So, and then mine, I know I got over 5,000 for sure. So, if it hasn't happened yet, then obviously it's probably not a problem. But again, I just felt like they could have designed it a little bit better, or gave it more mass. This is the slide lock out of the frame and the slide lock spring. The only beef that I have with it is you can't use your thumb to release the slide. It's just too hard. I can't do it. You have to pull back the slide, and then it finally releases. So I'm just a big fan of using your thumb to release the slide on the slide lock. Now let's take a look at the takedown lever. One thing I liked about what they did here is they added this little knob right there. There you go, you can see it now. Right there. That knob matches with the cutout right there. So when the firearm is completely assembled, it's basically just about impossible for this firearm to come apart. And I also like the fact too that the takedown lever is not only just a takedown lever, but it's also what helps hold it in the frame. So once again, we talked about the insert in here, and now You have the trigger block in there. Now you got this in there holding and supporting everything. So I love that. I also love the fact that they incorporated the slide rails. Excuse me, the slide rails too as well. So that was also a good job and good design. So here is the trigger pin, once again steel. So now you have takedown lever, the trigger pin, and now the trigger block pin. This trigger block pin is a roll pin. So once again, I like these because they tend not to work their ways out. Whereas this trigger pin right here is loose and it can work its way out, as we discussed earlier. But that's the job of the takedown lever, to block it and stop that from happening. So between all these things, plus the metal insert, you got a lot of support. So I like that. So now let's go to the mag release. Very interesting design. It's close to some of the other ones, but a little bit different. It's all metal. The only thing is, I kind of wish they made it amber, and it's not. So, yeah, it would have been nice if they made it amber. Oh well. So now let's talk about the rear block. The rear block holds the sear, the safety, and the ejector. And also this little piece right here. I'm not sure what they call it. I have to look up in the schematics, but the sear turn-off lever. Let's call it that. First, let's discuss the safety. This is the safety detent right here. That's on. That's off. The way it works is when it's on, tab right here on the safety is up, and it does not allow the tail of the trigger bar to go forward, keeping it from hitting the sear. Again, I'll reiterate, I just feel that maybe it's possible a weak spot right there could bend or break. So, but I don't see anything wrong with the actual design of the safety. It's nice and smooth, easy to turn both on and off. The ejector is typical ejector design. That's it. Now, very interesting, the ejector goes in like this. There's a slot that's been cut in. So it goes in like that, and then there's a head on this pin which holds everything together. So I like that. That's a good design. The sear is typical of any striker fire system. Drops down, then it releases the striker, and then ignition. Now the turn-off lever, you push this down, and what this does, it allows you to disassemble the slide from the frame without having to pull the trigger. I also like the fact that it did design it, even though it's on right now, when the magazine gets inserted into magazine well, it pushes this up, and you can see how it snapped back. Well, that's not only because this portion right here is rounded, and then once it gets to a certain point, it automatically is going to pop off. And that's also because the sear itself has a plunger and spring pushing this down once it makes it over this hump right here. Now, one thing you got to be careful of, I've never heard of it happening, but if this were to break off right here while this is on, turning the sear off, and you go ahead, insert your mag, and of course it never gets to be turned back on, then what can happen is you can literally have a runaway. So if that ever happens, this will be the first place I will look, is right here. But again, I've never heard of it happening. So now, is it really necessary to have this? No, it's not. But I guess because today we have lawyers, and too many people have shot themselves taking their gun apart because they were pulling the trigger to do that. So, but I just don't see anything necessary for it. In fact, if anything, it could cause a problem, especially if that scenario that I just told you, this broke off right here while the sear has been turned off, you can have a runaway. Now, I like the block itself. It's all steel, all metal, and it also includes the rails. So now for some aftermarket parts. Just like we talked about earlier, you have the Apex trigger that you can get. I'm sure there's other triggers out there too as well that are available. The sights, and mag plate. Now this mag plate I thought was kind of cool. The other reason why I got it, it's got this little clip right here, so you can stick it in your pocket and then have this clip basically clip on the edge of your pocket, so it doesn't go all the way down into your pocket. So it works pretty well. So as far as other accessories, I'm not sure what else could be out there. I know there's several different type sights and whatnot. I didn't see too many triggers. I did go with Apex, and I thought there was, off the top of my head, maybe 2 or 3 more. I'm not sure if there was any spring kits out there either, but I was not interested in that, so I never even looked that up. But I'm sure there probably is somewhere. Now, as far as custom design, finishing, there's always Cerakote, and people put extra type of rubber grip on it, on the handle. Those are always nice. If you are looking for a Cerakote, custom Cerakote job, I can also do that for you as well. But to wrap it up, it's a really great design. I like it. It's one of the reasons why I also carry it, except for the fact that I just don't like the manufacturer trigger, and I'm just not sure about how well the tail end of the trigger bar will hold up. But near that, I mean, everything else is great. It's perfectly designed. I have no problems with it. I think everyone should at least own some type of, whether it's an M&P full size or a Shield, because they're basically kind of almost all the same, except for when they first started coming out, there are some differences. But for the most part, I think it's a really great gun, especially the Shield. So Thank you for watching. See you next time.